The purpose of this video is to go over the XenDesktop FlexCast solution. The process we're going to take is to go through application virtualization, whiteboards, and demos of hosted shared apps, application streaming, and VM hosted apps. Then we'll go over the desktop virtualization slide of XenDesktop FlexCast of hosted shared desktops, hosted VDI, OS streaming, and local VMs. We'll do a whiteboard of each and demos to help you understand the different models. Hopefully at the end you'll understand the Citrix XenDesktop FlexCast is a VDI solution, but it's so much more than that. It's a complete desktop and application virtualization solution. Hosted shared application virtualization allows you to present applications running in the data center to endpoint devices so that the application appears to be running locally on the endpoint device, but it's really running back in the data center and being virtualized to that endpoint device. This allows you to virtualize applications for desktops, laptops, smartphones, and tablets. Citrix Application Streaming Virtualization allows for you to create a package that lives out on a file server that can be delivered to an endpoint device, a Windows endpoint device, and can consume local resources and run on the endpoint device. This works for Citrix Application Streaming. It also works for Microsoft AppV through the Citrix solution. In addition to this, you can also take this same package, deliver it to a hosted shared server, and actually present the applications to the endpoint devices. This enables you to take Citrix Application Streaming, Microsoft AppV to tablets and smart devices that couldn't run the application packaging technology locally themselves. VM hosted application virtualization is the ability to deliver applications that are running on a client OS from a virtual desktop on a hypervisor to an endpoint device, and all the client actually sees is the application presented to them that's running back in the data center from a virtual desktop that can be XP, Windows 7, 32-bit, 64-bit, Windows Vista. This allows applications that would usually not run on a server-based OS like hosted shared applications to be delivered through a Citrix XenDesktop technology. So this application is actually running in a virtual desktop back in the data center, but shows up for the user as if it's running on the local endpoint device. Hosted shared desktop virtualization allows you to deliver a Windows desktop experience from a server OS back in the data center. This is a highly functional yet highly scalable way to deliver a Windows desktop experience to many different devices. So as you can see, the device boots up very fast. We log in with our domain credentials. And we immediately go straight into our desktop experience, which looks like a Windows desktop experience back in the data center, but it's really a server OS being presented to the user. Hosted VDI is the ability to run a client OS on a hypervisor back in the data center and deliver that desktop experience to many different endpoint devices. So I log in using my domain credentials, and I'm taken straight to a VDI desktop where I have access to my VDI applications. Stream VHD is a desktop virtualization type that allows you to capture an image from an existing PC, and then turn around and deliver that image back over the network so that the endpoint device actually uses its local resources for the desktop experience. The great thing about this is you can then turn around and boot thousands of other machines similar to the original machine and have desktop virtualization using local resources. We're going to use streamed VHD desktop virtualization to stream the OS from the data center to the endpoint. The hard drive has actually been removed from the endpoint. I'm doing a network Pixie boot. Now the OS is actually streaming what it needs to boot the operating system from the network. Local VMs is a desktop virtualization type that allows you to run the VMs on the endpoint device, whether online or offline. Within XenDesktop, you also get this technology of the synchronizer. The synchronizer allows for bidirectional replication of the VMs. So the VMs can be delivered from the synchronizer and can also synchronize back into the data center so that you have a backup of the VM along the way. In this demonstration, we're taking a look at XenClient, which is a local VM technology within XenDesktop. Some of the things to consider is this is a Type 1 hypervisor that gives the VM direct access to the hardware. It also can be synchronized with the data center, and it can go offline because it doesn't need to be connected. In this case, I'm taking a look at my Windows 7 VM while simultaneously running a Linux Ubuntu VM. So I can switch between the hypervisor, the Windows 7 VM, and Linux, all within the same device. So as you've seen, we've gone through the XenDesktop FlexCast solution. And you've seen VDI, but you've also seen several other options that you're going to need to come up with a desktop virtualization solution that's so much more of what your users really need. You may find that you actually combine some of these options to come up with the ultimate user experience that you're looking for.